ravie de présenter les orateurs que nous aurons la joie d'entendre ce matin. Ce sera une session bilingue. J'introduirai ceux qui parlent en français et j'introduirai Robert Kelder qui sera le premier à parler en anglais, ce que je vais faire maintenant. Je voudrais vous rappeler qu'en raison des sessions parallèles, il est très important qu'on surveille l'horaire. Donc vous avez entre 20 et 25 minutes pour parler. Je vous ferai un petit signe au bout de 20 minutes pour vous signaler qu'il vous reste 5 minutes et puis ensuite il faudra qu'on fasse aux questions pour que les assistants puissent circuler d'une session à l'autre. So I'm very happy to introduce first of all Robert Kelder for this session about fiction and actuality. Robert Kelder was first an author of songs and a poet as well. He's known as the Gypsy Scholar. And today he's here not to sing or to present his poetry, but to talk about Wolfram von Eschenbach, an author that he knows very well, and I'm very happy to let him give his speech now. So, you go.
Okay. Thank you very much for your introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am the founding director also of the Willehalm Institute of Anthroposophy and Grail Research and Social Organics in Amsterdam. I'd like to begin by thanking the team of University of Aix-en-Provence, especially Sebastian, for giving me the opportunity to present this Grail and Wolfram research based on the work of the Swiss anthroposophist, the late Werner Greub. Already the title indicates what the Parzival revolution consists of, namely, viewing Wolfram von Eschenbach as he himself wants to be regarded, a teller of tales that are as full of wonder as they are true. Now, it was more than 100 years ago that Rudolf Steiner, the founder of anthroposophy, which he also called science of the Grail, identified the Arlesheim Hermitage, an ancient Celtic landscape near Basel, Switzerland, as Wolfram's central Grail area, Terre de Salvèche, by saying that the meetings of Parzival with the hermits Trevirsent and Sigurd took place there in the 9th century, and that Wolfram's source for his Parzival, the well-known master Guillaume de Provençal, he was well known then but no longer anymore, is no figment of Wolfram's fertile imagination, no mere poetic license, but a historical personality living here in the 9th century and known as Guillaume d'Orange, William of Orange, also as William of Guillaume. The first part of my PowerPoint presentation of images, prints, photos, and maps will show the literary sources in 4 languages. The second part will deal with the plot, action scenes, and dates of the Willehalm, the epic poem by Wolfram. The third part will deal with Parzival. At the end, I will launch an appeal. So here we go on a speed course on the multidisciplinary Grail and Wolfram research by Werner Greub. Please bear with me. Now, this is the original source. Wolfram von Eschenbach and the Reality of the Grail, translated into English. Wolfram von Eschenbach und die Wirklichkeit des Graals. It was published in 1974 as volume 1 of a trilogy of the history of the Grail from Zarathustra to Rudolf Steiner. Volume 2, from Parzival to Rudolf Steiner's Science of the Grail, published post-mortem 2003 by his son, Dr. Markus Greub, and Volume 3, Awakening to Goethe, published in 2004. Yeah. Now, here you have the author, Werner Greub. He lived from 1909 to 1997. He was an officer in the Swiss Army, had his headquarters at the Goetheanum during World War II to do reconnaissance work of an area later discovered as Wolfram's Grail landscape, Terre de Salvèche. His concern, as he writes, was to bring the Grail down to earth, but it was not without obstacles. This speech is not also not without obstacles. Now, this is the second Goetheanum, the School for Spiritual Science, designed by Rudolf Steiner and opened 1927 in Dornach near Basel, Switzerland, after the first Goetheanum was destroyed by arson in 1922. I am a member of this school. It was they published only the first book by Greub. Volume 2 and 3 were abandoned due to what Greub reports in Volume 2 as a Grail war, raging behind the scenes against the changed leadership at the Goetheanum. But this is an internal question, I will not go into this. This is Rudolf Steiner, 1861 to 1925. He is the actual initiator of the Parzival Revolution. Now, in the original book, the German book, was first presented not in the Goetheanum, but in an exposition at the local museum Trotte in Arlesheim near Basel in 1985. I was engaged as a publicist and wrote a text called The Hermitage as Grail Area. It was written on the wall and began with the following sentences. Arlesheim possesses a more than 1,000-year-old mystery tradition. For the Celtic Druids, Odelia and Irish-Scottish Christianity, the Knights of King Arthur and Knights of the Grail, the Friends of God, Rosicrucians and Freemasons have all left their mark in the Hermitage. The Basel Zeitung, the main daily of Basel, ended a report on an evening talk with Greub as follows. Citat, the Grail Castle was a wooden building which had to accommodate 400 knights. Here is the, this is where this book was first published, presented, Arlesheim, the local museum. Greub presumes, perhaps Greub presumes there are some remains of the Grail Castle lying under the rubble in the stone quarry further down. Thus one needs to dig, but that costs a lot of money. It doesn't cost much money because you don't have to dig anymore, you have ground penetrating radar. This would be something for UNESCO, which after all financed the salvation of Abu Simbel in Egypt. The unearthing of a location that is so significant for Europe as the Grail Castle would no doubt have to be possible. However, Greub's findings are very controversial. We'll try to do something about that. This is the first English translation, How the Grail Sites Were Found, translated and published by the William Institute in Amsterdam, 1999, and presented in England, Canada, and America. Title page, here in the center, shows the map of Wolfram's Terre de Salvage with the location of the Grail Castle. This is right, 7, if you can see the 7 right here. So the location of the Grail Castle Montsalvache on Hornikopf Hill in the Arlesheim Hermitage. This is a second edition, published in 2003, with the title page showing the entrance to the Hermitage, Fontaine-la-Salvache, where Parzival met the hermit Trevisant, and he was initiated in the secrets of the Grail and the Grail family, who lived from the Grail stone Lapsit Exilis, which is jasper, which is a semi-precious stone jasper. We have brought copies of the book for those interested and some brochures. Also the book itself, of course, and the French translation, La Quête du Graal. Now, this is this is the French, this is the, let's see, this is the Dutch version. William of Orange, Parzival and the Grail, Wolfram von Eschenbach is a historian, translated into English. A title page shows the ruined castle Chateau du Verdu on top of a hill in Saint Guilhem-le-Desert, north of Montpellier, the hunting lodge of Saint Guilhem, Kiot Willehalm, where he composed his memoirs that through 11 generations of oral tradition reached Flanders, where Crétet de Troyes published his Parzival, and 20 years later, Wolfram von Eschenbach in Thuringia is Parzival. Both have the same source, even also the chanson de geste of the roving troubadours, all base their sources originally on the memoirs of Guilhem de Provence, William of Orange. This is the French edition published in 2002 with the title page showing a Grail emblem taken from the portal of the church in Andlau in Alsace under Strasbourg by the local Count Christian d'Andelot, who also wrote the preface. As a native of Andlau, many, many centuries old, he considers Greub's book a family chronicle. Now there is one more book, and that is the very well-known book, The Ninth Century and the Holy Grail by Johannes Stein. It appeared in 1928 already. It is a different chronology from the book by Greub, but both agree that the hermit Trevisan was Hugo von Tours from the circle of Charles the Great, and that Amfortas, the Fisher King, was Hugo's brother. Now we'll start with part two, on Willehalm Kiel, the first part of Greub's book. Here you see Willehalm fighting against the 15 kings of Cod in the Battle of Alischan near Arles, that Greub dates around 818. Born in 775, son of Count Heinrich of Narbonne and paladin of Charles the Great, he is commander-in-chief as well as battle correspondent of the two battles against the Muslim armies from Spain. The first battle he loses with all his men dead or prisoners, and the second one he wins. The battle is not historically recognized through a conspiracy of silence. As a sort of a knight of King Arthur of the sword, he saved Europe from being overrun by the Moors, and as a sort of knight of the word made possible the Grail kingship of Parzival on free Christian soil. He was the spiritus rector, you might say, of the Grail kingship of Parzival. He was canonized as Saint William of Guélenon, patron saint of the knights. He holds something which reads, "They will be so happy, Lord God, those whom you choose to serve you." Now this was a map of the battlefield near Arles from the book by Greub. It's very, very detailed. Greub himself was an officer, I said, in the Swiss army. And here you have all the details which I cannot go into because it would take too much time, but you have it all in the book, okay? It was this area was also painted by Vincent van Gogh. It's called Montmajour. It's very well known. Now, after liberating Orange, where his wife Arabelle in her castle was besieged by 5 Arabian armies, Willehalm, after reading in an Arabian manuscript in Tudela and not in Toledo in northern Spain, goes on a Grail quest to find the Grail family and tell them about a new spiritual impulse in the history of humanity that can be read in the stars, but only by a Christian. He finds traces of the family in Andlau. Here you have a map of Alsace with many of the kingdoms of Parzival, from here Basel up to Strasbourg. Here Andlau is just below Strasbourg here. He finds this family, he finds traces in Andlau, and there's not in Anjou. Anschau is not Anjou because there is also a Count of Anjou. It cannot be, in the Grail research, it's always referred to as Anjou, but it's not Anjou, it's Andlau. And eventually he finds the Grail family in the Arlesheim Hermitage. Here, you have a picture of it. Now, the capital of Andlau is let's see, do we have it? No, we don't have it. Okay. This is the lake where Parzival meets Amfortas. Here on this quarry there is a location of the Grail Castle. This can only be shown very, very summarily. And this revolution may be upsetting to some people, but we need to stick to facts and not to fancy. Okay. Willehalm Kiot marries Choisian, the Grail bearer at that time, and he moves with her into his daughter, moves with her into the Duchy Catalonia. He's also known as Kiot of Catalonia. His wife Choisian dies while giving birth to her daughter Siguna around 822, and Kiot lays down his sword. He brings his daughter Siguna to his sister-in-law Herzelovida, the later queen in the land of Valais, to Odilienberg, to Mont Odilia. Valais is not Wales, but Val, in the central Vosges Mountains, with the capital Colmar. Colmar is called Convolai in the Parzival. Now then, here you have the capital of Anlau is Bar. This is the city hall. Bar is called Bielzanam in the Parzival. Now, Willehalm Kiot retires to Gelon, Saint Guilhem-le-Desert, in the hunting dodge Le Verdu in Languedoc in the south of France. And then from Gelon, he supports in the year 841 his niece, Comte de Vermour, who after the death of her father has taken over the latter's rule of Montpellier. This is Montpellier, and who is pressed hard by her suitor. Parzival liberates Montpellier and marries Kiot's niece, Herzelovida. Now, Parapia is Montpellier in Parzival. It's south of Saint Guilhem-le-Desert. Parzival liberates Montpellier and marries Kiot's niece, Herzelovida. During the following 16 months, Greub presumes that Parzival was Kiot Willeham's pupil. Now, the last account that Wolfram gives about Kiot is his journey to Dornachbruck in Switzerland. Kiot accompanies his niece, Comte de Vermour, the designated Grail Queen, to Dornach at the place of the three blood drops in Briljan forest, and hands her over to his cousin Parzival at Whitsuntide, Pentecost in the year 848. Thereafter he returns to Montpellier, where at the right hand of Comte de Vermour, he takes charge of educating Parzival's son Cardais. There, Kiot writes down in French the most important events of his life, which are also historically and of universal significance. Kiot's epics are, Greub writes, the most important historical documents concerning the age of Louis the Pious in the first half of the 9th century. That's the end of part 2. Now, this is beginning of part 3, last part. It's a photo from Greub's chapter on Wolfram's astronomy. In the planetarium in Lucerne, on the basis of the planetary constellations in connection with the illness of Amfortas, an exact chronology of the Parzival events could be verified, culminating in the Grail kingship of Parzival at Pentecost 848. A repetition of the Star of Bethlehem as the Star of Mont Sauvage, a threefold conjunction of Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars that only occurs every 854 years. On the basis of this could be determined, of this chronology, that Parzival was born around 827 in what is now known as the Museum d'Unterlinden in Colmar, it's Convolai, home of the world-famous paintings of Matthias Grunewald. Now, Parzival is now taken by his mother, Herzelovida, to Solitude. That's in the Hermitage, where now stands the farm Rinkers Mat. After meeting the three knights, Parzival leaves as a 14-year-old his mother in May 841 to become a knight at the court of King Arthur. His mother dies of grief. Here begins his first phase of soul development, given in the mystery name Parzival, A-Ya, A-I-A, A, dumbness, naivety, instinct, open for all and everything, but not self-conscious, which he has to arrive through doubt to bliss. We'll see that later. Okay, now he leaves his mother. He arrives in Nantua, south of Geneva in France, and not Nantes in the west of France, and finds the king of Court Arthur. It's his capital. Charles the Bald, one of the three sons of Charles, has been buried there, and he was probably the King Arthur of that time, since Arthur is a rank, just as for the Roman Caesar was a rank. You had a first Caesar, and then you had very many Caesars. King Arthur also is a rank of the Celts. There was a first Arthur even in front of the calendar. After that, there were many kings, many Arthurs until the 12th, 13th century. And that's another aspect of a revolution that Greub has started. Now, okay, I will go through this speed course further. On the horse of the slain Red Knight, Parzival rides afterwards to Gourdamons in Grenoble and stays there. Until the 19th day of his journey. He's told not to ask too many questions, behave himself, begins his second phase of doubt, the mark of intellectual. Okay, I have to go to a speed. I have to speed it up. On June 841, he reaches Pont de Gare Montpellier, where he liberates and marries Condé Amour. There he also becomes acquainted with Quixote and becomes his pupil. Then follows the enormous ride of 560 kilometers on a miraculous Grail horse from Montpellier to Arlesheim. Wolfram says it sounds incredible, the tale says so. He meets the Fisher King, Amfortas, on Lake Bromban in the Hermitage, who invites him to his castle. This is the route that he takes. You can follow in the book. And at the place where the Grail Castle is a rock face, an ancient quarry, a Roman quarry. I stood there once with Werner Greub in 1985 when he threw down a stone and said, there you have to dig to find the subterranean Grail Temple. What now can be seen is an ammunition depot from World War I. Then here you have a ground plan of the palace from the Book of Greub II, based on the description by Wolfram, where the mystery play was staged and the Grail carried around in the hope that Parzival would pose the question. Further sketches of the Grail Castle nestled into the rocks. Parzival is thrown out of the castle. You have the scene of the three blood drops in Dornach that enchant Parzival. Fated and merged in the elements, he is attacked by Arthurian knights, but only Gawain, who hails from Norway, managed to disenchant Parzival by laying a cloth over the blood drops so that Parzival's spell is broken. The Norwegian author Arve Thoresen sees this in the context of the northern path of initiation through the three elemental worlds to the spiritual worlds. Here you have the Roman bridge leading to Arthur's camps on the banks of the river. De Beers is his Plummetsuel. Not far from there we have the hunting lodge of Carminal of King Arthur. King Arthur's Camelot was not, at that time, was not located in Britain, but near Dijon, Champmol, in the land of Bertaigne, Boulogne, where now stands the famous grand cloister La Chartreuse. Scene changes to Gawain, who fights against Parzival the Red Knight in opposing armies in front of Béaroche, that is Besançon. Map of Gawain as he approaches Besançon. Then when we go to Mont-Rivel, here you have a dried up lake. The first mention of Quixote as a source. Quixote, Wolfram never mentions Chrétien, only Quixote. Okay, this is a dried up lake where there was used to be a lake, because there has to be a lake according to Wolfram. Now, the Mont-Rivel, then via Punt-Route, it is Punt. Punt-Route, or poetry is Punt in Wolfram. He reaches March 23rd, the Arlesheim 841, the Terre de Salvage. There he meets Trevisan, at the Fontaine-la-Sauvage. He's a guest of Trevisan. He's initiated in the secrets of the Grail family. This is the end of the second period of doubt and despair, and the beginning of the third intuitive phase of Seelde.
I'm sorry.
You have how many minutes?
1.
1 minute. Okay. Then I'll make a very far. Here is Siguna is also there. This is the place where the Trevisan was living. It was used as a Freemason meeting place in the 18th century. A map of the whole place. A changes to Agave changes to the capital, the castle of the sorcerer Klingsor, which is not on the Sicily but north of Basel in east under Klotz. Here you have a place, maps showing at the end of the Parzival, Kundry and Feidefees go to the back entrance of the Grail Castle. They walk down the place. Here they meet the place where once the Grail Castle was located. That's where the stone fell and where we should dig. And now I would end this with an appeal. This is what Greub at the end of his summary writes. A new course for independent research in the future lies open. After attention was drawn to the main error of existing research, the futile attempt to locate Wolfram Parzival in the 11th or 12th century, an avenue of research into the first half of the 9th century has been laid out, which, if taken up, offers much likelihood for success. Through the geographical identification of the Grail sites and the exact chronology of the historical events, references are made to places where not only geographers and historians await a dish of plenty. From this starting point, each scholar can begin to work much more precisely in his own special field. I appeal to my colleagues of the International Arthurian Society and other interested parties, such as the Académie Française, to corroborate the findings of Werner Greub, especially the location of Grail Castle Montsauvage, and if found to be true, issue a request to UNESCO to declare the arlesheim as a World Heritage Site. Thank you for your interest and your attention.
I'm sorry to be a bit pressing, but we need to keep time for questions. So maybe if somebody has one question, we have time for that. Yeah.
Yes. I'm Swiss, and I'm very proud of that you said. That I had always have been sure that the Grail was in Switzerland, and you said, confirm it to me. Thanks very much.
Well, that's a nice question. I have nothing to add.